Imagine being bought and sold like a piece of furniture. Your body isn't your own. You have no choice in who touches you. This was the reality for thousands of male concubines in ancient Rome. Their stories will shock you. Male concubines in ancient Rome had zero personal freedom. They were property, not people. Think about your morning routine. You wake up when you want. You choose what to wear. You decide what to eat for breakfast. Male concubines couldn't make any of these simple choices. Their owners controlled every moment of their lives. These men were usually slaves, captured in war. Sometimes they were born into slavery. Others were sold by desperate families. Once they became concubines, their old lives disappeared completely. They couldn't leave the house without permission. They couldn't refuse orders from their master. They couldn't even speak unless spoken to first. Roman law treated them like objects. Masters could buy, sell, or trade them at any time. Imagine living with the constant fear that tomorrow you might belong to someone else. Your master could wake up and decide to sell you to pay a debt. You might never see familiar faces again. The wealthy Romans who owned them saw concubines as luxury items, like owning expensive art or rare wine. They showed off their beautiful concubines at dinner parties. Guests would admire them like they were sculptures in a museum. Some concubines tried to run away. But Roman society made escape almost impossible. Runaway slaves faced brutal punishments if caught. They might be branded with hot irons. They could be crucified as an example to others. The fear of punishment kept most concubines trapped. Their masters controlled who they talked to. They decided what the concubines ate and wore. They chose when concubines could sleep or rest. Even basic human needs required permission. Want to use the bathroom? Ask the master first. Feeling sick? Too bad unless the master cares. This complete control destroyed their sense of self. Many concubines forgot what it felt like to make their own decisions. They lived in constant anxiety about pleasing their owners. One wrong move could mean severe punishment. Can you imagine never having control over your own body and choices? The primary purpose of male concubines was sexual service. This meant constant abuse and exploitation. Think about consent in your relationships. You choose who you're intimate with. You can say no anytime you want. Male concubines had no such power. Their bodies belonged to their masters completely. Roman masters used male concubines for their sexual pleasure. The concubines couldn't refuse or resist. Saying no meant severe punishment or even death. They had to submit to whatever their owner demanded. This happened day and night, whenever the master felt desire. Many concubines were just teenagers when this abuse began. Some were even younger children. Roman society saw nothing wrong with this. They believed slaves existed only to serve their master's needs. The age or feelings of the concubine didn't matter. The abuse wasn't limited to their masters. Wealthy Romans often shared their concubines with friends and guests. Imagine being passed around like a party favor. These men had no say in who used their bodies. They were entertainment for dinner parties and social gatherings. Roman masters also rented out attractive concubines for money. They became prostitutes against their will. Their earnings went straight to their owners. This created another source of income for wealthy Romans. The concubines saw nothing from their own exploitation. Physical violence was common during these encounters. Masters and clients often hurt concubines during abuse. There were no laws protecting slaves from sexual violence. Bruises and injuries were just part of their daily reality. The psychological damage was enormous. Many concubines developed serious mental problems. They felt worthless and broken. Some tried to harm themselves to escape the pain. Others became completely numb to survive each day. Medical care was poor for slaves. Sexually transmitted diseases spread easily. Injured concubines rarely got proper treatment. Their health meant nothing unless it affected their appearance or performance. The trauma followed them their entire lives. Even if they gained freedom later, the memories remained. Most never recovered from years of systematic abuse. How would you cope with such a complete violation of your basic human dignity? Roman society actively humiliated male concubines and treated them as less than human. Think about how people respect you in public. Strangers treat you with basic courtesy. Friends value your opinions. you have dignity in social situations. Male concubines experienced the complete opposite of this respect. Roman masters often forced concubines to dress in feminine clothing. They had to wear makeup and jewelry like women. Their hair was styled in elaborate feminine ways. This wasn't about personal choice. It was designed to humiliate and emasculate them completely. At public events, concubines served as entertainment. Masters made them dance, sing, or perform sexual acts for guests. Everyone watched and laughed at their humiliation. The concubines had to smile and pretend to enjoy it. Showing sadness or anger brought harsh punishment. Roman citizens could treat concubines however they wanted. There were no consequences for insulting or hitting them. Free Romans saw concubines as animals, not people. They kicked, spat on, or sexually grabbed them in public. The concubines couldn't fight back or complain. Their names were often changed to humiliating nicknames. Masters gave them names that mocked their appearance or origin. Some were called after body parts or sexual acts. This stripped away their identity and dignity. They lost even their original names from childhood. Concubines couldn't own property or make legal contracts. They couldn't testify in court against free Romans. Their word meant nothing in disputes. If someone murdered a concubine, it was just property damage. The killer only had to pay the owner for their loss. They ate scraps from their master's table. They slept on the floor or in small, dirty rooms. Their clothes were cheap rags unless their master needed them to look good. Basic hygiene items were luxuries they rarely received. Roman literature and art portrayed concubines as lustful animals. Writers described them as naturally suited for sexual service. This propaganda made their abuse seem normal and justified. Society convinced itself that concubines were different from real people. The constant humiliation broke their spirits completely. They internalized the message that they were worthless objects. Many believed they deserved the terrible treatment they received. What kind of society creates systems designed to destroy human dignity so completely? The most tragic aspect was that male concubines had almost no chance of escape or improvement. Think about your worst day at work or school. You know it will end eventually. You can quit your job or change schools. You have options and hope for something better. Male concubines faced the same horrible reality every single day with no end in sight. Freedom for concubines was extremely rare. Some masters freed slaves in their wills after death, but most concubines died before their masters. Others were freed only when they became too old or sick to be useful. By then, they had nowhere to go and no skills for a free life. The few who gained freedom faced huge challenges. Roman society looked down on former slaves forever. They couldn't vote, hold office, or marry citizens. Many Romans refused to do business with freed slaves. Finding work was nearly impossible. Freed concubines often had serious health problems from years of abuse. They suffered from untreated injuries and diseases. Their mental health was severely damaged. Depression and anxiety made normal relationships difficult. They struggled to trust anyone or feel safe. Most had no money or possessions when freed. They owned nothing during slavery. Starting a new life required resources they didn't have. Many became beggars on the streets. Others returned to prostitution because they knew no other way to survive. Roman law offered no protection for escaped slaves. Slave catchers hunted runaways for bounty money. They used dogs and professional trackers. Captured slaves faced crucifixion or being thrown to wild animals. The risks of escape were usually worse than staying. Some concubines tried to buy their freedom, but earning money as a slave was almost impossible. Their masters took any coins they found. It would take decades to save enough if they lived that long. The psychological damage made hope itself dangerous. Dreaming of freedom made their daily reality more painful. Many learned to stop hoping just to survive mentally. They accepted their fate because fighting it brought only more suffering. Even death wasn't always an escape. Masters sometimes killed concubines slowly as punishment. Quick death became something they actually hoped for. Is there anything more tragic than a life lived without any hope for change? Male concubines in ancient Rome lived lives of complete horror. They lost all freedom and became property of their masters. They suffered constant sexual abuse with no way to say no. Society humiliated them and treated them as less than human. Worst of all, they had no realistic hope of escape or better treatment. These forgotten victims remind us how cruel humans can be to each other. If this video opened your eyes to history's dark truths, please like and subscribe. What other forgotten stories should we explore next? Tell us below.